Cool, cool. What's up, everybody? It's BallietBran. We've got a stream today with Crypto7. So him and myself are going to be talking a little bit about Hex, Pulse, crypto. We all get to meet another Hexican and kind of hear some of their story and some of their, perspectives on where we're going and what they think the market's going to be like. So without further ado, I've got his Twitter channel in the description, and then same thing with his YouTube channel. Let me just pull up his YouTube channel real quick for everyone to see. It's once again, it's Crypto7. You can see that a lot of his videos recently have been on, some Hex here, some Pulse chain, things like that. So really excited to do this one. And then once again, we'll get into it right after the intro. So give me 88 seconds, and then we'll bring him up and just have a little combo.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams, Mr. BallietBran.
Cool. So before I bring him up, let me just show you guys his Twitter as well. Let me place that in here. So it's once again, it's Crypto7. He's got Pulse Chain, Hex, and Bitcoin. And then once again, that's his YouTube channel there as well. So let me bring that link down and I'll bring him back up here. How's it going, man?
Hi, BallietBran. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty good. Thanks for for being able to make it and being able to do a stream, and been looking forward to this one for a while. I know sometimes when we're scheduling, sometimes the schedules can be a little wonky, but we got this one to work, and happy to do this one. Happy to hear from someone that I haven't heard from before. So how about you, man? How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, thanks. I've been really looking forward to this. I'm really stoked to be doing this with you. I've been focusing my channel on Pulse latterly, and in doing so, I've been watching some Hex content because I think it's increasingly difficult to separate Hex and Pulse. And in doing so, I picked up particularly on your channel. I particularly enjoy it, and you've got this infectious enthusiasm. I'm sure your viewers would all agree. You're also really authentic, and I really love that. You do get a lot of YouTubers that are sort of there for the sake of having a monetized YouTube channel, and I think you're the polar opposite of that, BallietBran. You can tell that you're passionate about Hex, and that YouTube is just a vehicle for you to promote Hex. In my case, I'm here for the engagement. I love all cryptos, but I'm really buzzing from the community vibe you get from Hex and Pulse. And I think what I'd be interested in talking to you about is how I think Pulse and Hex fit into the wider crypto community. And I've had some experience with big business and also some of their ideas and some of the issues around that. And I've also got an exclusive, which I'm going to give to your channel, on why the Pulse price predictions are really underestimated, particularly in the early days. So I've got an exciting nugget, so do stay tuned for that. And if you've only just come across the BallietBran channel for the first time, guys, then I've been around crypto for a long time, and this guy is someone you should be subscribing to, in my view.
Hey, that's very gracious. I appreciate you saying that. It's like you mentioned it. as far as like the internet and smartphones and social media. You know, it's a technology that you can use to like benefit the world and like amplify your voice, or it's something that can be used for the opposite, which is just to like consume and not really provide as much value, but instead to indulge and like watch it like you would like the television, you know? So yeah, I really appreciate that. And you've said you've been in crypto for a while, right? I'm curious how long maybe you've been in.
2017. Like most people,
Nice.
I mean, it's a mathematical certainty that most people are attracted towards the business end of a bull market in the last few months, when the price brings people in like honeys to bee, like bees to honey rather. And that's what happened for me. But I went down the rabbit hole. I became really interested in cryptocurrency, and I stuck around. And I think a lot of people do. And that's what happens in each cycle. You get a certain number of people coming on board in the last few months of a bull market, and then a certain proportion of them stick around. And that's why cryptocurrency just keeps building. And that's why the snowball will just keep getting bigger, even though we get this ebb and flow, particularly in the wider crypto market. Of obviously you get the bull market periods and then you get the bear market periods, but all the time the overall trend is just up and to the right, as Richard Hart says.
I agree, man. I know you and I were talking a little bit in the green room that that when people first experience a top of a market cycle, the cool thing, at least about Hex, is it's not as elongated as say Bitcoin, right? Where it's usually a couple year cycles and things like this. But Hex tends to do, and Gerardo actually did a really good video on this, but it tends to do the market cycles a lot more quickly. And as you mentioned, when you're holding something that's say down 50% or whatever it is, obviously that's never a pleasant feeling. But the more that I think people can, arm themselves with knowledge and information, then they might realize that, hey, this isn't as bad as you think it is. And in the actual time itself that it's happened, like with Hex specifically, the time that it's happened gets shorter and shorter, it seems, until a new high is made and kind of breaking out. But that's cool that you've been in since 2017, man. Myself too. And, I tell you what, it's definitely like we've earned our stripes,
Well, it's been fun. And this period's quite volatile, and it's quite easy. I mean, I know a lot of your viewers are hexicans, and they might even be sort of hex maximalists. And so
yeah, true.
they're sort of thinking, when are we going again, maybe? And for other people who may be more invested in the Ethereums and Solanas, they're watching their portfolios going up and down quite drastically at the moment. So I think it's important to remember that everyone watching now, if we stick around, we're all going to get rich in crypto. We're all going to get rich if we're not rich already. And I appreciate that a lot of you Hex OGs are already rich, and good luck going well, and good for you. I know I'm from the UK, where it's a little bit, we don't talk about people being wealthy. But in the States, one of the things I love, I've been to California quite a lot, and one of the things I love is that people say, what do you do for a living and how did you make your money? And I think it's absolutely fantastic. You're unapologetic about that, and you're sharing people the route to riches, which is very much Hex, which has been the best performing cryptocurrency of all time, hasn't it? And I only wish I'd got in early, but I didn't make that mistake with Pulse. Just something you said about the great thing about Hex. Another great thing about Hex, I think, which is another USP, which people don't talk about as much. And again, where I think I can add some value to your viewers, hopefully, in terms of the wider where Hex fits in. One of the things that made me buy a lot of Hex recently was a lot by my standards, is that it's a real hedge in that it seems to do better, if anything. It's pretty much always doing well, but it does better when the wider crypto market isn't doing so well. Now, for an investor, a hedge is just a wonderful thing, because crypto is a risky asset class. So if their advisors say to them, look, and there's this Hex, and not only does it do really well, but it seems to do well when other cryptos like Ethereum and Bitcoin are diving a bit. And they're like, well, that's fantastic. Sign me up for that, because not only am I going to make money out of that, but also I'm mitigating my risks. So that's why I'm into Hex. I was actually in Pulse first and went into Hex, which I think is quite interesting. And I'm sure there'll be many more people like me that start in Pulse and go to Hex. And of course, that's the genius behind the architect of all this, Richard Hart. He obviously knows what he's doing. He's not going to create a cryptocurrency that's going to take the wind from the sails of his number one cryptocurrency, which is Hex. He's going to create a second sailboat, which is going to push us both along, isn't he?
I mean, I agree 1000%. I mean, you had mentioned kind of like not something that's competing with each other, but something that's complementing each other. And when I look at, say, just the Hex Telegram in general, it's got 36,445 members, and the Pulse chain has 48,571. And so the interesting thing is I hear a lot of people saying like, oh, do you think Pulse chain can do the same thing that Hex has done, which is, the 10,000x in under 2 years, not even under the 2.5 years that Ethereum did. And it's an interesting metric to kind of measure and to look at, because as you mentioned, Pulse chain's not even launched yet. And you've got all this hype in a good way, this hype built up around it and excitement built up around it. And I think about just the way that the network itself grows versus, say, a store of value like Hex would. And it's exciting, like what you mentioned about being in Pulse chain first and then kind of hearing about Hex. I've heard a lot of people, specifically in the voice chat, the Pulse chain com voice chat, have a similar experience. And it's kind of cool the way that it, like, one hand washes the other, or like a scale itself is kind of like self-balancing. And then they tend to kind of grow, at the same exponential rate to each other.
Yeah, man, definitely. And I think that what a lot of people are underestimating, although people have picked this up, I think what people are underestimating is the fact that when Hex came about, it was a real punt, as we say in the UK. I'm sure you have that phrase in the States. It was a real risk, because Richard's track record of cryptocurrencies was nada. He hadn't launched any. So whereas now, not only has he launched one, not only was it successful, but it was the most successful cryptocurrency of all time so far. And so, as an investor, very top of the list, I mentioned Hedge, which is probably somewhere in the top 5, but the very top of the list is track record. What have you done? So say you're Gordon Ramsay or some world famous chef, and you say, I'd like to open a restaurant. They're going to say, yeah, no problem. We'll lend you that money. We'll invest in that restaurant, because they know he's a brand. They know he's going to be good. But if you say, well, I've never opened a restaurant before, and but I've watched my mum doing some cooking, they're not likely to want to invest. And it's exactly like that. So it's very, very exciting. You can only imagine just how much interest there's going to be. But that leads me on, I think, to this real nugget, which we won't go to straight away, but I've got something which I'm going to share on my channel. But it's why people like Crypto Coffee, who's very good, but his recent estimate on price prediction on Pulse, why I think it's too low, and the elephant in the room, if you like, which he's missed. And my career, I was working with some big companies and some senior individuals, and I was advising them on regulatory change. And I'd go away, this is when I was like early 20s, and I'd go away I'd come back with all these issues. And I'd say, well, I think this is an issue and this could be a potential opportunity. And very often these senior people, chairmen of public companies, really real big fish, they'd say, yeah, that's all great, but you've missed the elephant in the room. You've missed the big issue. And what I learned was how to identify the big issues. And I think everyone's missed the big issue, the big elephant in the room when it comes to the price of Pulse in the early days. But I'm not here just to talk about Pulse. I'm very happy with X as well, and where I think that's at. And maybe we should let's start with a chat about Hex, because I'm very excited about that as well.
Sure. Yeah. No. I'm curious. You had mentioned that you had gotten into Pulse chain and then Hex. By the way, the chat's really liking the stream already. Johnny is saying, I like this guy, and a lot of other people are really liking the information too. But can you maybe mention like how, because I know you said you've been in crypto since 2017. That's awesome. But how did you hear about Pulse chain? Like, what made you want to get into it? Because I know we can get into the Hex in just a second too, but that seems kind of relevant since it like preceded the hex itself. Like, how did you hear about Pulse Chain in the first place?
Yes, I missed out on Hex. I wanted to get into Hex, and because I didn't have a MetaMask wallet and whatever, I was too lazy, and I missed the opportunity. And I thought, if Richard ever does another cryptocurrency, I want to be there from the ground floor up this time. I'm sure that Hex has got a lot of headroom to go. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And we're going to talk about the whole Hex price in a moment. But obviously, it's great if you can get in at the ground floor on something which has now got a track record. You know it's successful because Hex was successful. So clearly, the architect of Hex isn't, his second crypto is going to be just as good. They're different animals, but I think it'll be just as good. So that's why I got in. Through the sacrifice, and yeah, I'm really excited to do so. And then I sort of started to watch more and more good YouTube channels like yourself on Hex, and yeah, picked it up like that.
Nice, man. No, that's exciting. What do you think about, say, like the community? Because you mentioned kind of being in other cryptos as well, and just everything. Personally, I've never experienced a community that was so like organic and not unfiltered, but just kind of like raw, like not as much, shilling and like fake influencers, I guess, but more so just like very authentic, trying to educate others. Like you had mentioned as well, a lot of the Hex, like original gangsters or OGs, quote unquote, just the people that have had significant gains. Some of them have retired early and are still, almost even working like harder. Like I made a little clip of Kinetics talking about this, but it's crazy some of the sacrifices that are made in a willful way. You want to participate, but I'm curious what you think of the community, because both of them are kind of interchangeable.
I love the community. I really enjoy it. And for instance, you did a sort of meetup, didn't you? I think you organised that, or you played a big part in doing something near you recently in a hotel and things. And then I bet you probably paid for some of that out of your own pocket. And that's the sort of generosity I'm constantly seeing, where people are helping others and introducing them to cryptocurrency. And yeah, no, I really like the community, and I really like the fact that I haven't heard one negative thing from a hexagon towards what I call them pulsitans, people pulse and titan, people in pulse, but I haven't heard anything negative. I think people get that Pulse is here. It's because Ethereum has let us down with the gas fees. It's providing a solution to the hexagons, and it's very much a symbiotic relationship, and they're mutually beneficial, and so that's really good. I watched one of your videos recently, and I thought, fantastic, he's got it, where you had gone along with Richard's Hart theory that we had already topped, and this was a dead cat bounce. And then you did this video, and I think it was called "Changing My Worldview," and it was absolutely
right.
Because the most intelligent people will change their view, and you were like, day one, yeah, okay, so we have reached all-time high, and I need to revisit my thinking around whether or not the wider crypto market is in fact in a bear market or not. And I've long been in the belief that it was a mid-cycle correction, very much like in 2013, and that we weren't in a dead cat bounce. And the first thing which made me think that, I think it was Cardano, which reached all-time highs after May, which wasn't in keeping with it being a dead cat bounce. And then obviously a dead cat bounce, you tend to see the main cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum recover to about 70% of their previous prices. Once we got to about 95%, it was obvious that the cats don't bounce that high, and so that it wasn't a dead cat bounce. And now there's a few people that are now saying, oh, it's a double top. Well, there was nobody saying it was a double top before. Nobody. The only people that are now saying it's a double top are a few people that, unlike your good self, are finding it harder to change their worldview. And the worldview, as Hex really arise in the world, And as we go viral, which is, I know, something you Hexicans really believe will happen, and I truly believe will, the worldview becomes very important. So one of the things we could talk about is, what does this mean then if we are indeed in a bull market? If that was in fact a much needed mid-cycle correction in May, which it was, we were overheated and we were overextended. So we had a correction. It was very much like the 2013 cycle playing out. And the exciting thing, if you're also invested in other parts of the crypto community, is that crypto is going to go on and on. And what does that mean? I'm of the view of the extended cycle theory, which suggests that the crypto bull market is going to run to about September to November next year, which is absolutely fantastic. So about 12 months still to go. What I think your viewers might be interested in, what I think this might mean for Hex. Now, first of all, let's talk about where it is. Now, it done so well that it was well due a cycle correction, and I'm not sure if you picked it up, but one of the best, he's probably world top 3 best crypto technical analysts. He's a guy called Eric Crown. He's talked about Hex a couple of times.
I know who that guy is. Yeah,
he's very, 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 very well considered, and he's talked about Hex about a couple of months ago, and he actually predicted that we'd go to 50. He was talking when we were in the 40s. He said, I think we might go to 50, and then it'll do a healthy retrace down to about 20 to 25, around there, and before going onwards and upwards. And that was his view. And very interestingly, it turns out that was right. Now, as we said in the green room, one of the things about Hex, which people may not appreciate, is that all cryptos will, and it's a healthy thing to do, it's the right thing to do, retrace to the 20-week moving average from time to time. They'll form that as a base, they'll show that's support, and then they go on, and that's what people like to see. And so that's all good. The 3 steps forward, 2 steps back theory. And the thing with Hex is, because the price does so well, unlike something like Ethereum, where it might go to 4,000 and the 20-week MA might be 3,300, not that far back in the wing mirror, with Hex, it might be way back, 3 or 4x back. And so you get these larger retraces, obviously, 50 to 80%. And that's understandable because the 20-week moving average can't keep up. So that's why you get that. And that's what we're seeing now. But if we look less at Hex as being sort of the only cryptocurrency in town, and look at Hex and Pulse as being rather the 2 best jewels in the crown, and I think that's a good analogy. So they are the 2 best jewels, and I think they will prove to be, Hex already has proved to be the best jewel in the Queen's crown, and Pulse will be the 2nd best. Then we still have to bear in mind that there are all these other jewels in the crown, and that our lovely cryptos, Hex and Pulse, exist in this crown. And what does that mean? Well, what it means is that there are going to be more and more investors, more and more institutions getting into Hex and Pulse. And they're going to look at it and they're going to go, well, it's had a great run, because all the best cryptos, all the blue chip cryptos, they take it in turns. They take it in turns on the Sun Lounger. So Cardano had a great run earlier in the year. And now then Solana, I think Ethereum will go next. And that's just what they do. And a lot of these investors, they're not quite as passionate about a single cryptocurrency, if you like. And they're going, well, Hex is a great asset. It's done really well. I think it's probably time, being that the dead cat bounce has been disproved, and being that the crypto market's going forward, and being that everyone's saying that Ethereum is going to be like 8-10 grand in a couple of months, it's probably a good idea to take some of all this money I've made in Hex, just some of it, and put it into these other cryptocurrencies. So I think that's what's happening now, and I think that's perfectly natural. Nothing's changed with Hex. The smart contract hasn't changed. So it's just that we're pausing, and we just have to have that. You guys are really good. You call it delayed gratification. We just have to have a little bit of delayed gratification, because what I think. Okay, I'm going to say something which might not be a popular view right now.
Sure.
If you are just focused on Hex and maybe Pulse, but just focused on Hex, let's assume that some of your viewers are. It could be that we range 25 cents to 50 cents until the end, towards the end of this bull market. And then all the clever cats that made lots of money in Hex in the last 12 months are going to look at the fact that crypto's running, it has run. As we said earlier, Hex is a fabulous fabulous hedge for the wider community against it. And they might then go, right, let's go for it. Also, if the bull market is going to continue another 12 months, that means there's going to be a lot more people in crypto over the next 12 months. And they're going to be really educated on Pulse and Hex. And when they see that it's Hex's turn on the sun lounger, as I put it, when they see Hex going again, as it will, because nothing's changed, the smart contract hasn't changed, Richard Hart hasn't gone under a bus, the SEC isn't investigating Hex, it's all wonderful, it's all clover. So it's just taking its time. And the longer it stays at 25 to 50 cents, the better in the long run. Because, now progressive grade, let it build that volatility. Let it build that pressure cooker effect. And then it's just going to go again. Now, I bought a fair bit of Hex, and I'm underwater at the moment. But I've been around crypto long enough to know that, sooner or later, it will go again. Because nothing's changed. It's still fantastic. The only thing that's going to happen is that more and more people are going to become aware of Hex through Pulse. And away we go.
I agree. I had met him I was thinking of a different comment, but I agree what you're talking about as far as the actual liquidity itself. You mentioned that, it's not tied to Ethereum anymore. It's tied to, say, USDC as the majority. And you're right. There's like this like shiny object syndrome where, people want to, like, just as far as psychology goes, they don't want to be necessarily holding something that might be going down, even though that's like the prime time to be buying and accumulating, but they want to like chase something else that maybe is pumping at that time where, say, Hex is not, because it is more decorrelated.
Shiba Inu, sorry to butt in there, but Shiba Inu is a perfect example of that at the moment, isn't it? I mean, some people will make a quick profit on it, but the meme coins, they go straight up and then they go straight down, and then they do nothing and they go straight up and they go straight down. I had a bit of SHIB, and I just sold it last night, and that's but there's billions going into SHIB at the moment, and the other meme coins. And when these people become educated, they experience it, they're going to go. So this is a lot of these this is new crypto money, and they're then going to look for more substantial projects like Hex and Pulse.
Totally. Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, you're definitely right. There's a difference between just hype and something just pumping just because it's pumping and it's got that euphoric effect, and then also, like you mentioned, maybe it not having utility aside from it just being a meme coin. So that's very interesting, kind of your analysis on the rest of the bull market, kind of where we're at in the market itself. And you're right, when something's kind of consolidating, the longer it does consolidate, we've seen with Hex before the big April 2020 pump, it was doing kind of the same thing, consolidating a little bit sideways. And, it's always the sentiment where people are like, they're questioning their investment, or they're getting bored, or they're seeing these other things pump. It's always kind of that moment that it's like, man, that coiled spring is like so tight and so ready to, pounce upwards, that once it does, I agree to your point. I think it'll be, quite explosive in a good way.
And when you start seeing some people get frustrated and chucking their toys out the pram, as we say in the UK, And I was saying in the green room, there was one guy, he's got Hex in his Twitter handle name, and he was saying, "Oh, what's going on? I think everyone's jumping ship into Ethereum, and I'm not sure we're even gonna. I'm not sure we're even going to get to 50 cents again, let alone $1." And you think, but this is when you press buy, isn't it? This is when the clever people press buy. I mean, there's a lot of people. Have you got any stats on this? But there's a lot of people getting interested in Hex. It's getting noticed, isn't it?
It definitely is. I mean, I know people like Richard's Twitter handle and stuff like this, and his YouTube channel have been growing a lot. I can try and pull up Staker app on my phone and just see, because I know it'll say like the new wallets that have been created, and it's very interesting the question that you ask, because I mean, Hex is still top 3 market cap, and it's under 2 years, and it's with all of this heavy gatekeeping. But I think, like you mentioned, with something like Pulse Chain, that's going to be it's going to be impossible to gatekeep. You know, everyone's going to have their free airdrop and their duplicate, I should say, of the forked coins on the new network.
And that's all that game theory that Richard's so good at, and that is the honey for the bees that draws them in. But there's 2 things that drive crypto price. Just 2 things, BallietBran, and that's speculation and use case. And what's exciting about Pulse is that it has both. We've touched on already why the speculators are going to buy Pulse. They're going to buy Pulse because the guy that built it had the most successful cryptocurrency in history. Right, tick, that's it, I'm buying it then. And they're going to buy Pulse because it's laden with use case. It fixes a pain.
Yep.
That pain is the Ethereum gas fees. And so it's got both. It's a perfect storm. And that's why Pulse is going to be crazy. And the more people that get into Pulse, the more people that are going to be watching your channel, and the more it's all just going to drive.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, like you mentioned, you know, people say that they're in crypto for like the technology, which is kind of a funny joke. But I mean, what if you could have the best of both worlds, where the technology, where like the technology itself is impeccable, and it's like, oh, okay, we can use smart contracts in this kind of way to replace some of the traditional finance, you know, popularities, but then also so have the use case, and then also have the price go up significantly well too. Like that's just a recipe for success.
I got to comment on that. That is just nectar to my ears, right? We're all going to get rich. I think that's how I started this. We're all going to get, which is great in itself, because I'm here for the money. I'm here for the money.
Yep.
But not only that, but history is going to show that we're on the side of the good guys, because there's going to be no more banks. If there are banks in 20 years, they are going to be just custodians of crypto wallets for people that are too lazy to do it themselves, or people that got so much money that they just don't want to have to worry about, you know, the custody bit. So there'll be banks in that sense, but there aren't going to be banks in the sense that there were. There's going to be no more Western Union. The Western Union is going to go bust, taking 40-50% off poor Mexicans who, to use an example from your place, sending money to their poor relatives, and they were creaming 40-50%. Can you imagine? Yeah. Well, they're jumping on crypto now. Or places like El Salvador that are suffering from hyperinflation. Or did you know that in El Salvador, only 70% of the El Salvadorians can't get a bank account? So when the president of El Salvador was getting all this grief from the International Monetary Fund, saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, he turned around to the banks and he said, well, you haven't looked after my people, because 70% of them aren't banked. And now, thanks to Bitcoin, they're all going to be banked. And so history is going to show that we were the people that slayed these thieving banks. Yeah? And we're going to get rich to boot. So I hope that lifts the spirits a bit, because, you know, I'm sure everyone's portfolio is a bit like mine at the moment, and you're thinking, shit, you know, is this going to happen? And it is. It is good.
Well, I mean, I agree. And honestly, like a lot of the older people would kind of understand where I'm going with, but like, we're really spoiled in crypto. Like I've been in crypto for a little bit over 4 years, but if you think of any investment, the way that say like stocks or like, cause I remember getting savings bonds from my grandpa that took 15 years to mature, and you're just getting like a 1x on your principal. And that doesn't include all of the inflation, but you're definitely right.
Yeah.
But no, the other thing real quick is you had mentioned, people that are in America, say their families are back in other countries. My girlfriend's in that case with like Venezuela, where like, her parents and stuff. And dude, it's crazy because they've got such a strong gatekeeper on where you can send your money, and you have to do it via like, at least the way that she does it, I think is it's either like Western Union or like MoneyGram, something like that. But either way, the fees themselves, it's like a fee for sending and then a fee for converting to, their currency. And it's just disgusting, all of because the middlemen themselves, right? The middlemen are just they're not creating efficiency, right? They're taking and extracting value from both parties. And it's like, man, you guys already kind of do that enough in the first place. So as you talk about with decentralization and not having to ask for permission, I think that's quite a strong technology.
And they've been doing it since the dawn of time, and the game's up, and so your girlfriend's able to send relatives money in Venezuela much cheaper, faster, more conveniently, more privately, I bet. And that's beautiful, isn't it? And that's another in, isn't it? So yeah, and I mean I think there's a lot going on now with the ETF, etc. in the States. I think that that was although it's only a futures ETF, that really was seen by big business as a green flag by the regulators, that this is something that they're able to do. And so, they'll start with the futures involvement, if you like, and then they'll think, well, why don't we just be doing this ourselves as well? And hopefully a spot ETF will follow fairly soon. But yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Well, I mean, I agree. Like, once again, you've got parts of the traditional finance sector that Bitcoin's kind of being incorporated, or like crypto is kind of being incorporated with it. And yeah, the days of just thinking that it was going to disappear, maybe like with people in the internet thinking when that first came out that, oh, this might be a fad. It's like, no, this is kind of like that new infrastructure. And kind of as you talk about, if if people aren't getting onboarded now, that's fine. But who knows, they might inevitably be using it in the future without even knowing, once it's kind of had more advancement and progression, I guess, as the years go by.
Good point. Using and benefiting from it. I mean, you've got senators now in your place that own crypto, haven't you? You've got pension funds and insurance companies that own crypto. So that horse has bolted. They can't ban crypto now, even if they wanted to, in the States. And I refer to the States a lot because you guys are the number one economy. But it's a case now. I think they're moving to look to how they can involve the banks more in crypto and have the banks custody in crypto, which is fine, if people want to do that and people want to pay for a middleman, but it's not really what crypto is about, as all your viewers know, of course.
Right. Well, it's true. I mean, I guess like the more the merrier. So as you mentioned, whether it's custodial or things like that, the involvement, everyone's kind of gotta start somewhere, right? Getting your foot in the door. And the thing that I'll say about crypto kind of coming to traditional finance and stuff is that's where a lot of the major money is those 401ks, is the ETFs that you're kind of talking about. And so, like you mentioned, with it being like a green light for legitimacy, I completely agree with that. It's price positive overall, for sure.
Definitely. And so just going back, definitely, yeah, great. And just going back to this hex price, I don't want people to think, oh, I'm saying that we're not going to get back to all-time highs. We're not going to get back to 51 cents or whatever it was for the next 12 months. But I'm saying it's conceivable. And if it did, it doesn't really matter, does it? But what isn't going to happen is that hex is going to suddenly disappear to nothing. It's certainly not a good idea to be selling hex now. I mean, hook me up if you want to sell your hex cheap to me now, then do. I'll buy some more. I mean, I'm underwater already, but I know it's only a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, and so that's all good, And what I think what will happen is at some point, it will keep going up again, and then I think that we might find is that when we get an ebb in the wider market, that's when hex pumps again. But there's plenty of headroom in it. What we're getting at the moment is a nice washout of people who didn't understand the fundamentals around hex and just why it's the best cryptocurrency in town. And so once we start to wash those out, as we needed to, then they're being replaced by people who appreciate the opportunity, and so that's what's going to happen there.
Well, it's a great point that you mentioned, because a lot of people are getting washed out, and it's so interesting because it really is psychology, the way that the markets work, right? And you can never predict it, but you can kind of look at some of what's happened in the past. And the point that I'm trying to get at is it's so ironic that the people that are getting in, say when hex was most recently high, they're like, oh, I wish I could get this at a discount. And then when it does pump down, or dump down, I guess, consolidate down 50%. Now it's like, now they're scared of buying when there's, blood in the streets. And it's like, you look at some of the people, as you mentioned, even being down a little bit, but you look at some of the people, like I've held through like an 86% dump in like November 2020 and just all these different dumps. And it's like, if you look at the way that pattern kind of rhymes and the history rhymes, it does this dump consolidation, starts to make its way back up. And then all of a sudden, maybe 6 months, a year later, like that previous dump that you had held through is way down the chart over here. And the new price is like up here, so it's all kind of relative to the timing, I guess, of how long someone's in the market for.
That's totally right, BallietBran. I couldn't agree with you more. The psychology of the crypto market is my number one fascination. I think it's what I focus on, really. I'm really, really interested in that. And it's exactly what you say. It's like when Hex was 51 cents, people would have gone, bloody hell, I wish I could have got it at 20 cents or 25 cents. Although they can now, but I bet they're not. They'll be buying Shiba Inu or something, But, yeah.
True.
And that's so the case, and the psychology, and that's why, as you mentioned, the market's rhyming. That's why it rhymes, because the pattern of human behavior, the psychology of human behavior, is what is seen in the price charts, and that's why they do repeat. Like I mentioned, the mid-cycle correction of the 2013 cycle, and why we're seeing it again. It is human behavior. We got overheated, we got overextended back in May this year, and then we had to have this washout, get rid of the lettuce hounds, as they call them, and now we build again. We build again with the people that deserve to get to nirvana. Like you were saying, you've ridden through. So I'm interested in that. How does this correction feel? Because I appreciate it's not actually this correction from 51 cents to 22 or whatever it was. It's not actually as big as some of them have been. In terms of duration, how's it looking? It's been about the same amount of time, or it's back to what I said. I think the pressure is just going to build anyway. So it's not a bad thing if it takes its time. It's not a bad thing if it takes another few months or whatever. It's only going to burst up higher still. But how's it feeling to you?
Yeah. So let's see. We're generally at like 55, 56 kind of. We're kind of consolidating as you mentioned. I think we've seen longer dips than this before, in longer kind of sideways consolidation. As we were talking a little bit earlier, the more that it kind of does consolidate sideways, and it's usually within a range. We see it go from 22 cents to 30 cents and kind of chopping back and forth. But from where I see it compared to previous dips, honestly, I wasn't really expecting the dip at the time. It's always hindsight where it's like, yeah, we were due. We were definitely due with how much we had pumped from the initial pull chain mention, like the initial pull chain sacrifice to the correction. As far as how it feels, it doesn't feel as panicky, I guess, as say like the big payday dump and some of these other ones where people are really just selling and creating the big wicks down. I think as you talk about, a lot of the people have already kind of like weeded themselves out, the people sold who wanted to sell. And there's going to be a tipping point where, yeah, the bottom is kind of formed, whether that's now or whether that's in the future. And then it kind of starts making its way back up again. But it, feels normal. And, it's times like this where I remind myself that like, dude, Hex is not something that's like designed to be traded per se, and in short-term investing. For me, it's like I'm staked. You're incentivized to do so. Like that way, the dips don't feel as bad. But it seems pretty normal.
You're not scared?
No, not scared at all. Well, and it's those emotions that screw people over, because they're now letting their emotions drive their financial decisions, and those are the things that you kind of have to like separate in your mind if you're going to be successful, because otherwise every single stock crash or dip would screw you.
Sorry, buddy, I'm talking over you. It's a daily process. Oh, yeah. It's like, if I give you an example, if my portfolio goes up 10,000 in a day, and then the next day it corrects 8. I don't look at it as, oh, I've made 2,000. I'm gutted about the 8,000 I lost. And I think that is a response that a lot of people have. It's like, no, the moment you've got that money in crypto, you become immediately attached to it. And then even if you've only had it for a moment and it goes, or even if 50% of it goes, you're gutted. You're not happy. You know, it could be, you go up 50,000 in a day and then you go down 40,000 the next day. You're gutted. Your pig's sick. But really, you should be thinking, well, I've made 10,000 in 24 hours. But we don't think like that, human beings, do we?
No, you're definitely right.
Yeah,
I was looking at some of the comments here. Yeah, people are definitely enjoying it. Someone was saying that, yeah, this dump isn't anything that we haven't seen before. And once again, we've seen, like, I don't even know what this is, 60%, something like that. But
yeah,
the big payday one of like an 86% was, I gotta admit, like, that was where like the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt was like definitely at an all-time high. And it takes a lot of cojones, you know, to be able to, thankfully, like I said, if you're staked, it's a lot easier, as you mentioned, with the hedge. But it takes a lot of cojones to be able to stand in front of like adversity and kind of be like that David versus Goliath, where it's like everyone else is crap talking this, calling it a scam, and you're just holding and like wondering when is the next pump going to be, or the next, you know, all-time high, things like that.
and that's a genius thing about Hex, isn't it? So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not staked yet, because I've only been in Hex for a short period. But so when people emergency destake or whatever it's called, you get some or all of that money shared amongst the people with the cojones, as you put it. Is that right? Oh, it's genius.
Yeah, yep. It's true. So yeah, 50% of that goes to the origin address, and then the other 50 goes to the stakers based on, you know, the shares, however many shares you have. And you're totally right, because they call it, I mean, I guess it's not really like a dark pattern, but they call it like dark patterns in traditional like CDs, where they'll kind of like auto enroll you if your CD had ended, and kind of like these things that normally the bank would benefit from. But in this case, you know, it's kind of rewarding the people that did what they said they were going to do, and the people that ended early, like there's a huge like warning, like a red and yellow box that says, you know, make sure you know what you're doing. You can go to staker.app and see what the actual the cost of that emergency end stake is going to do. But it's once again, it's not something people should be doing unless, like, if you're going to make a stake, in my opinion, you should really follow through with that, because otherwise there's going to be ramifications for not doing what you said you would.
Yeah, man. Well, you could also be saying, but by all means do if you want to, because I benefit. It is just it's just this evolutionary law of survival or whatever. Anyway, so do you think your viewers would be interested, being that some of them have sacrificed for Pulse, and being that others will of course benefit from having their Hex copied over onto Pulse? Do you think they'd be interested in why I think that the price of Pulse is going to absolutely crush it on week 1, and why I think everyone has underestimated this?
Please do. I would love to hear it, because, you know, sometimes you've got such a bias of being in the crypto before, or just some of these other things. And I love to hear all of it, like everyone's opinion.
Great.
That's why I'm a fan of, like, you know, people coming on or starting new streams. It's like everyone's got their own opinion, and people need to hear it.
That's awesome, buddy. Because on my channel, Crypto 7, I tried to bring original thinking, which is why you'll notice I haven't done a video for a couple of months, because I'd run out of things to say about Pulse. And I thought of this, but I thought, you know, it's really good of you to let me come on your channel and talk. And so I thought, well, I'm going to bring it to BallietBran's channel. And I hope people appreciate it. So as I mentioned, I've had quite a bit of exposure from working in different successful companies, small, medium, and large, public sector and private sector. And what all these companies have got in common is they've all got a gatekeeper. We've talked about gatekeepers a few times. This is the last person that looks over the checks that got the amounts of the money that gets sent out to suppliers or whatever else. And they might be called an accounts manager, they might be called a chief financial officer or an FD or whatever they're called. There's always somebody in these organizations. Often they're not in the limelight, they don't go to the board meetings. They tend to be well paid because they pay the salaries of the people in the companies. And what they tend to do is they tend to overlook any expenditure. Now, once upon a time, I was, your age, the bright young thing in offices, and companies wanting to invest in. This is what I'm getting to the point. Companies wanting to invest in Pulse. So some bright young thing will come to the boss guy or girl and say, look, there's this fantastic cryptocurrency called Pulse. It's been done by the guy who did Hex, so he's got a track record, and it's going to be faster, greener, more efficient, cheaper, blah blah blah. And they're going to go, right, okay, take it forward. That sounds good. Yeah, we'll put $1 million into that. I'm talking about trust funds or institutions, or there's a lot of companies. You'd be surprised, by the way, how many companies. So I used to work for trade associations, and the only job of trade associations was to lobby government and to represent industry to the media. And yet they were quite cash rich, and they used to invest in the money market. And you say, well, what are they doing that? But they did. Anyway, sorry, I'm waffling on, but I'll get to the point, and it's a good one. So stay with me, guys, right? So basically what's going to happen is that at some point, so a lot of people, a lot of companies will have wanted to get in on the Pulse sacrifice. And there'll be a conversation, and they'll say, yeah, okay, that sounds good. We'll put $1 million into that. Take it forward with that FD, CFO, account manager, the person I mentioned, who's not in the limelight, etc. Now, what they tend to do, those people, they're very, very good at their job, and they're very clever, and they see their job as checking the expenditure. So whenever I would raise an invoice or whatever with these people, I'd say, like, we need to pay this supplier, or we need to pay this person. They'd always take a little look at the company. They'd see, for instance, if they had, we call them county court judgments, if they were in trouble with the regulators, or they'd have a little look at maybe their accounts, and they'd ask around and that sort of thing. So sure. when the kid, the young me, or the BallietBran goes to the account manager, in their 50s, and says, yeah, we want to pay $1 million onto this, and yeah, it's all right. I've talked to the boss about this. He said it's okay if it's okay with you. And they'll go, well, leave it with me. They'll always say, leave it with me. And they'll take, and they'll go on the Pulse chain. This is the good bit. They're going to all have gone on the Pulse chain website, and then they're going to look at this, and then they're going to go, hang on. I had this because I want to quote this because it's funny. They're going to say, it says on this massive disclaimer on the Pulse chain website with neon lights around it, you are sacrificing to make a political statement. And then it says, word for word, the sacrifice points are not meant to have any monetary value. And worse still, and the bit they're looking for, they want to see that there's some sort of contract. They want to see that £1 million, because it's more than their job's worth. It's more than their job's worth if we're selling £1 million and we're not going to get anything back. It says here, you are not buying anything. Now, the accounts manager is going to haul me in, the young me or you, and they're going to go, what's this? Oh, yeah, that's it. You got it there. You're not buying anything. I mean, like, what's this about? Oh, yeah, it's okay. This is just a clever way. We all know why Richard's done that. We all know what you'll get. Yeah? So we won't tell that. We all know why Richard's done that. But the account manager's just going to be grey-faced at this point. And they're going to go, well, can't we just wait until the launch? And they're going to go, and then we're going to go, well, yeah, we could do that. And at the time, a couple of months ago, there was a lot of talk of Pulse could be cheaper at launch. And I'm here to tell you why it ain't going to be. And this is why it ain't going to be. Because all these companies, and this conversation will have been going on 1,000 times in every single country, UK, America, everywhere. And they're going to go, look, I'll tell you what, honey, you come back to me when this thing launches and I will sign this £1 million. Not a problem at all. When we are buying something and we've got recourse and we've done the due diligence, but this is just, I am not. And by the way, I looked at a video and he's got a Ferrari and lots of expensive watches. Yeah, no, that's cool. He just does that for, that's not what you think, No, I'm not doing this. I'm not signing this. So this will have happened a lot. So there's a lot of companies that are just waiting to pull the trigger. They've even got that invoice raised, but the accounts manager's gone, oh, no way, you are not buying. Okay, this is the elephant in the room. Remember I talked right at the beginning about how these senior people have this ability to spot the elephant in the room. Well, that's the elephant in the room that no one spotted. That the financial director, the CFO, or the account manager has gone, I'm not letting you spend £1 million. Hey, it's more than my job's worth. It says here, we're not buying anything. It's not going out. Okay? But as soon as this gets launched, I'll pay it. Not a problem, but not until then. And that's what's going to happen. So there's going to be this huge tsunami of pump into Pulse Chain. And so that's exciting. So if you've got Hex, that's exciting. So that game theory is going to kick off straight away. And that's why, although you're going to start at a relatively low level, it's going to be something straight away. And if you were thinking of trying to get in the early stages, not financial advice, but I'd highly recommend it. Get in, because it's just going to go crazy. And then in terms of this, how they say, the beginning of projects, it goes up a lot, and then there's a big retrace, and that could be a time to get in. Well, hang on. No, this is the second elephant in the room. But that was when we didn't know if Hex was going to be a success, when guys like you with the big cojones were taking a big punt. It's not a big punt now. This is the man invented Hex, and he's just invented Pulse. And they do different things, which is one of the great things about them, and they're mutually supportive, and we've mentioned all that. But no one's going to pull out of this. And who's going to sell? Who's going to sell, to make a 2 or 3x? Nobody, because we all get it now. And if we didn't get it when we sacrificed, we sure get it now, because we've been devouring all these videos and coming across great channels like BallietBran and watching your great content and getting really enthused about it. And so we get it. There's no bloody way I'm selling. I might sell 10% at 100x. There's no way.
Right.
And I'm sure all your viewers are now nodding like this as well. I'm sick of selling, not selling. Pardon my French. So that is and nobody's thought of that. This just ain't going to get past people. I don't know how it got past anyone, buddy. How did it get past anyone? You were not buying anything. You can't explain to the accounts manager. She doesn't sit in board meetings, and she's just like. And I've worked with dozens of them in my career. Well, dozens, half a dozen. They're all the same type of person. Really nice, really quiet, unassuming, really clever, and really good at spot. They're just going to go, no, I'm not authorizing this.
Right. Well, it's kind of as I've heard Big Pep talk about, where he's like, nobody wants to be first, but everyone wants to be next. Like you mentioned, once again, like the big cojones, right? It takes some knowledge and some understanding to realize, why did Richard from the very beginning say that this does it? It fails the Howey test, right? As far as, or I guess it's not an actual security, right? He said it from the very beginning. It's never that way. Same thing with Pulse Chain. Why is he structuring it where it is sacrificed for freedom of speech and political statement, things like that? You've got a point, because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that see that as a risk and a possibility. And like you say, they're going to be ready with their bags and their position, but on the day of launch or whenever they can start accumulating that. And you know what, there's a lot of people, I even heard yourself mention it, where, missed out on Hex and stuff like this. And they don't want to miss out on, say, Pulse Chain, because it hasn't even launched yet. So it's interesting to see some of those dynamics. And once again, the room itself is significantly bigger than, say, the Hex Telegram. And it's interesting for what that could mean for price and appreciation from launch.
Oh yeah, man. So yeah, definitely. So that's really exciting. So I think that's how it's going to go. I think it's going to be huge.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's interesting. I know yesterday we were doing like Nights of Crypto, and I think so compared to someone that did it on day one, there's like 138 times difference of the points, right, that you're getting that'll be in return produced for actual individual Pulse Chain. But it's interesting to see the amount of people that are still sacrificing, and some people are doing it for just like a little bit of gas in the wallet and things like this. But I don't know. I've never seen anything like this where
that is really interesting, isn't it? I think the whole thing is not worth opening that can of worms now. But the whole thing about allowing people to continue to sacrifice after the deadline is a bit weird. But I think that people realize that you're getting such a raw deal. And yet, I think was it that girl Pulse Games who highlighted that there's still people sacrificing large amounts of money now.
Yeah, she's great, dude. It's cool to see.
Know something. They must know something. So that's weird as well. But yeah, it all points to so. I think that hex that people are copying are going to get copied over. The duplicates. It's going to be should be worth quite a lot of money. And
yeah.
And I'd say not financial advice, but I'd say jump in when you can. I believe you can buy Pulse on Trust Wallet as well as on your MetaMask, of course, and things. So another handy, because a lot of people have got Trust Wallet. It's a good one.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Trust Wallet specifically. I know that people are going to need that like multi-network availability, right? Do you know can it do say like Binance Smart Chain, or can the Trust Wallet do different RPC settings? Okay, cool.
It can, and Richard said that you can do it through.
Okay, cool.
And MetaMask, of course, and various other ways. I mean, the great thing is that your community, the Hexicans, are very good at that sort of thing. Anyway, so I'd say jump in, the water's warm. I think it's going to be good, and I don't, and I wouldn't wait for this big sell-off, because who's going to be selling? If people are putting millions into the sacrifice now when they're getting such a low ROI compared to in the first 5 days of the sacrifice. Who's going to be then going, oh, I've made a 3x, great,
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people. Yeah, once again, as you mentioned, there's the success that I've seen in Hex and the people that are still here today. And a lot of us didn't sell at the first. I mean, 100x is obviously great, but a lot of us know what this can do, as you're mentioning. And honestly, with my Pulse bag, it's going to be significant, but I don't plan on touching that thing at all. Like, thankfully, all of the gains and some of this other wealth has accumulated so much that, I've got that freedom. But as you kind of mentioned, the actual amount of hexagons that are sacrificed for Pulse Chain, the actual majority itself is overwhelmingly hexagons and people that understand like the game theory and the economics of not selling early and not making that mistake that some of these other people did, where the price just shoots past your sell and now you're kind of just left holding fiat,
Yeah, man. I don't think it's ever coming down. It's not coming down. I don't think it's going to come down until the sort of the second correction that you'd normally see. I don't think there's going to be much of a first one. I really don't. So did you sacrifice? Can I ask?
Oh yeah, no, 1,000%. Yes. And here's the thing that I will say. So it didn't take much in Hex. Obviously not everyone got that 10,000x, right? Because that's the absolute low to the most recent high, but it didn't take much of a principle to really turn into, say, millions of dollars or 8 figures or things like this, or even, just numbers that you didn't think about before. And so I think about some of the gains that I've had in Hex and then that I sacrificed for, and it's significantly more. It's like at least 100 times more than what I ever put into Hex. And so I think about this as far as not needing to sell and just kind of holding on to that golden goose of the big bag of Pulse. And it's like, man, what if, and not even what if, but like in my mind, when it does make that 10,000x or continues to do what we've seen it be designed to do, that's an incredible amount. And it's as Richard says, that once your finances are completely set, now it's like, what are you going to do for the world? Are you just going to sit on your thumb all day, or are you going to, do things that can actually provide value and give back?
Fantastic, buddy. I'm really pleased to hear that, because I'm really going back to this, being pleased with people's success. I'm really delighted for the early Hexagon OGs. But, super wealthy people, they do diversify, and not with the currency or one or two asset classes, but they have 20 different things, property, silver, oil, gas, whatever it is, and trust bonds, whatever. And so if you are diversifying, that's great, and have the courage of your convictions, because that's your instinct. I wish I'd sacrificed more. I didn't sacrifice very much. I actually bought a lot more Hex than I did. And I think this is back, and this is another interesting thing. I think that it's back to this. If you can see something you're buying, rather than having to have that deferred gratification, if you can see something, like I bought Hex when it was going up. So it was an easy buy, wasn't it? Everyone wants to buy green. But Pulse, I had to just sacrifice and wait. And who wants to do that?
Right.
My money could be in something that's going up, like
Yep.
heck. So I think that once Pulse is out, once Shiny Pulse is out, and it's tangible, so to speak, and people can see the price going up, and they're going to just go, you know. And I did have one person said to me, "Oh, do you think I'll be too late if I buy Pulse in the first few weeks?" And I said, "I think that's like someone thinking they're too late buying Ethereum at $3, you know."
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to be. You're not too late at all, you know. First, not going to be too late, but yeah, I think it's just going to go woo, and then it's going to for a few months before it corrects, and you know, maybe 40-50% correct, or maybe a bit more, but it's just going to go boom, you know, and then of course it'll just carry on because Pulse fixes a pain, which is the absolute best. It's got a sexy name as well. I mean, there's so much I like about Hex. I'm not mad,
Yeah.
but the name is the name. And obviously people will warm to that as they get wealthy off it. But Pulse is just a great name. I mean, that's that.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a wonderful name for sure. A lot of the Hexicans understand, how that name was formed and just all the nuance behind it. It's great. And, I think the point that you had kind of mentioned about some of the fear of missing out is really unique. And it makes me curious, right? Because on one side, it's like, I don't understand why people are doing this. And on the other side, I do, because it is completely deflationary, and like the only way I guess that you could guarantee it is, either buying it from someone else that had sacrificed that received the pulse or yeah, you see people that are sacrificing at this kind of rate in time. But I guess it is all kind of relative when you think, like you mentioned, the time in the market. Like if someone can give themselves, at least a 1 year, but say like 1 to 2 year time horizon, whether you bought Bitcoin at $30, which is where Richard had bought it, or saw it go down to $2, right now it's still massive amounts of gains compared to that early of a buy, like whether you bought and were instantly in the negative or things like that. So those people that can kind of have that expectation set, I think are really setting themselves up for success.
That's a brilliant example, and of course you use Richard Hart in the example, which is even better. I'm a huge fan of Richard's, and just one thing I sort of like challenge our community, if you like, our Pulsites and Snakes. Mm-hmm. We mustn't be afraid to disagree with Richard, our august leader.
Yeah, totally.
As much as we respect him, and he's one of my favorite guys in crypto. We mustn't blindly follow, and we talked about his price call, which on this occasion he gets wrong, and he doesn't get much wrong, but he did get this wrong, and he was also thinking that Bitcoin would outdo Ethereum in the 2017 bull market, and he was again a rare occasion when he was wrong. So he's not right about everything. We've talked about that. But it's great. No, you're right. The FOMO is going to be mental, isn't it? I hadn't even thought about the FOMO. I'm thinking why Crypto Coffee and others have underestimated what Pulse is going to do in week 1 and 2. But what you're talking about is just incredible, isn't it? And people are going to get bored with the Shiba Inus and the Dogecoins very soon now. I think Shiba is going down now as we speak. But and then all that money which is being wasted in those is going to be pouring into the hexes and the pulses, and it's going to be incredibly exciting.
Yeah, it's true. As we were kind of talking about the Dogecoins or the Shibas, those are just kind of like the meme coins that have taken off because of whatever hype and virality. But you bring up a good point that a lot of people saw what happened with Hex. They crap talked Hex right since the very beginning, and guess what? Those people didn't get the 10,000x gains or even more, honestly, with staking. And so, yeah, I think some of these people, whether they admit it or not, Pulse Chain itself is just a lot easier to understand as a concept than, say, Hex. And a lot of people are starting to realize, okay, fool me once, shame on, you, fool me twice, shame on me, something like that. They don't want to make that same mistake twice with Pulse Chain when Richard has developed something so strong.
Do you think a good way of describing Hex and Pulse is Hex is a bit like Bitcoin, and Pulse is a bit like a Ethereum? You know, I mean, because Hex is like the best piggy bank in the sky you'll ever get, isn't it? The rewards, gratification, and all the rest, and it is really a storage bank, isn't it? And then Pulse is going to be this platform that just works a lot faster, cheaper, greener, better than Ethereum. So it seems to me that's the best way, but you're the expert on it.
No, I mean, not the expert at all, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's what Richard's kind of talked about too, where some people don't understand like the bond or the certificate of deposit analogy. So like you mentioned, it really is like Bitcoin, except with the proof of work change. So instead of proof of work, it's now proof of stake, which is great because it's more sustainable in the long run on the environment and the price itself. This is the cool thing about Hex is like, there's like no overhead. So whether you have a business or whether you're doing some of these other things, generally there's like a cost of operations, a cost of doing business, like an overhead. But with the proof of staking in Hex, instead of Bitcoin, where the actual mining itself is a negative externality because they need to sell for the electricity, you don't have that with Hex, right? Because it's proof of stake and you're not paying for electricity. You're just being rewarded for the time that you stake for. So yeah, I would say that that's a great analogy. It's like a Bitcoin 2.0 type of deal. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin is they changed their narrative quite significantly, right? Like the white paper itself said like digital peer-to-peer cash, something like that. And then they changed it to store of value, which is much better and much more understandable. But it's cool to see, like, we wouldn't be able to be where we are, in my opinion, without that prior history and without that prior experience, mistakes and successes of, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so now it's like, okay, we can piggyback on what we've learned and what their prices have done and hopefully do something even more.
And it was, sorry, that's just my dog. Someone's coming.
No worries.
And Richard Hart was very involved in those Hex days, wasn't it? In the Bitcoin days, when in the promotion and all that. And the other thing about proof of stake versus proof of work is that the anti-crypto lobby have been using. Hang on a second. Yeah, just let her out. The anti-crypto lobby have been using proof of work as a stick to beat crypto with, and so that makes Pulse politically correct, which is the best way to be correct. And so it's got everything going for it. So it's like immune to that criticism, which they really. I mean, Michael Saylor, and you talked about the new narrative that Bitcoin quickly adopted. And I think it was people like Michael Saylor that sort of went, look, guys, no, Bitcoin should just be the store of value, and let's just focus on that. Let's not frighten the regulators with it's going to be a currency, etc. And let's just, and that was quite a clever move, actually. But so your Pulse just seems to tick all the boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And you hear this, like, I don't know, response to the question of it not being like completely, it kind of being like harmful on the environment or wasting the electricity. And then you hear some of the Bitcoiners saying, well, it's like only 25% of it's that way. And to your point, either way, you've got things like proof of stake and just different mining algorithms that don't have to have that negative externality, especially when it comes to regulation and what people are concerned with as a whole. So if you're going to have something like that, it's got to be able to be adaptive to the new changes and to like the future that we're going into. So I agree. The proof of stake and it not being electricity inefficient is obviously really good.
Yeah, it really is. It's like yet again, it's the clever people around cryptocurrency have sort of checkmated the opposition by making it about the impact on the environment, and then the Mining Council responded really quickly by proving that renewables were used to a greater extent was being considered. And now, of course, with Richard Hart introducing Pulse, which is proof of stake, it's genius, really. It really is genius.
Yeah, man, it totally is. Let's see here. Coming on, I'm just gonna see if there's any
Sure.
questions from the chat itself. I mean, does anyone have any questions for Crypto 7? Because this has been a great discussion and great conversation. And honestly, yeah, we can't have this be the last one. I mean, it's awesome that you've shared.
I'd love to do it whenever you like. Because I went and mentioned how you use YouTube as a vehicle to promote Hex and your passion for Hex, and that comes across really well. And for me, it's about the engagement and connecting with people, and so I love it. And it's not about monetizing my channel or anything else. Saying that, when we went onto this stream, I had 980 subscribers. So I'm hoping that we can push it over 1,000 in this stream, if not a bit more.
Yeah. Let me once again show everyone.
Yeah, please. I get a lot of comments on my videos, which is great. I respond to them all. So yeah, please do give me a sub and hit that notification bell, and I respond to all my comments, and I get there's a great buzz around it.
Yeah, I mean it's totally true. Abit Hex, Alan Bittner, he's talked a lot about people being able to support everyone in the community. I mean, you mentioned the Pulse Gains lady, or even Crypto Heartbeat was in here towards the beginning of the stream, and it's really exciting to see once again how quick some of the new people's channels are growing, because it goes to show you that not only is there demand for that kind of information and those kinds of people, but it shows you that like people can't get enough of it, right? There's a 24-hour chat constantly going on hexradio.app, which is actually Pulse Chain Com. But then, yeah, with your channel, with everyone else's channel, what we need to continue doing as like members of the community and supporting everyone is liking the videos, like you mentioned, turning on the notification bell, and sharing it out too. I mean, for the people that are putting their face and their time and some of the sacrifice in front of the camera, I think other people, like the least you could do is share it out, even if your community is just other crypto people, let alone say other communities that aren't in crypto.
And that's one of the things you're very good at, is giving people a lift up and helping people, and because you realize it serves everyone to help other channels. And you know, when I do my next video, I'll make sure to mention your channel and if you are watching this through my channel, then please do give BallietBran a sub.
Yeah, no, totally. It's once again, it's really exciting, and as you mentioned, kind of the internet for connecting with people. I've always been, friendly and social and stuff like that, but now with streaming, it's cool that you mentioned you're kind of in the UK, I'm in the US, and we can literally be like, I saw one guy the other day streaming from I think Kenya, and it's so cool to see all of the people that can kind of conglomerate into something that they share in common.
Well, crypto is very popular in Africa, and it's popular because a lot of inflationary issues and a lot of corruption in some of the countries, and it's just fantastic. It's it's giving people opportunity that previously didn't. There's so many good things about cryptocurrency. It's crazy. And hopefully it'll buy us all Lamborghinis like that one on my YouTube channel. That's not mine, by the way, but maybe one day.
No, totally. It's I mean, that's part of it too, right? Like everyone's going to, no one's going to hold forever, right? Like when you die, you're not going to be able to keep these assets and this wealth with you. So that's another part of the dichotomy is, hey, you got to learn how to, if you are going to take profits or scrape off some of the interest, things like this, do so in a just like you might dollar cost average in, do so in the same going out, or learn how to do limit orders. Because I see some people that there's this one whale that was like a Bitcoin free claimer that we were talking about last night. I think has 100 million hex, and they just been murdering the price, just selling on the market. And there's a way to keep the price afloat and not actually even move, but also become the liquidity via a limit order and then that way, you don't have so much slippage to the downside and so much that you're actually wasting just because the person is impatient, possibly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But you know what? I don't worry about that too much because there's a
Yeah, I agree.
lot of eyes now on Hex, and
Right.
there's a reason it's not going much below 22, 23 cents. Just over 50% below the all-time high. So people know when they're getting a bargain, and if somebody does wick the price down, to 19 cents or something, people are just going to buy it up. I mean, we should
Totally.
always have some cash on the side as well. I mean, I hope you've done well in Hex and have some cash in the side. By the way,
Yeah.
Have you got yourself a nice car yet? A young man like you.
So
Yet with something.
So honestly, dude, I haven't really done much. Part of me is just like, I don't really need to live above my means too much and attract too much attention at say a time this early. Like, even though the gains have just been ridiculous, I haven't really done much. I mean, as I said, I've got like a few $1,000s that I spent on audio equipment that's going to be hopefully set up by Sunday. The car that I'm driving, it's an upgrade from the previous one, and it's just like a little Toyota Corolla that I'm kind of driving around for maybe like a year before I upgrade. But the cool thing about it is yeah, there's a lot of people that are hex flexing or that have rewarded themselves for all of the time in the market that they spent, because that doesn't come easy holding through the dips. And yeah, I will make a decision sometime in the future, but it's not something I'm rushing. Like, just like when I was debating on like quitting my job and like retiring from my job, like I had sat on that decision for like 7 months. And then I was like, okay, this is just getting too ridiculous, spending all this time for such little pay relative to where the time could be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah, you value your time, don't you? And if you're in the day job, you can't be looking at monitoring the prices and researching things, everything else. I've been full-time crypto for about 12 months, and
oh, nice, dude. Hell yeah.
Cheers, buddy. And I've had a good career, but I've earned a lot more in crypto than I did working as chief exec of trade associations and things like that. So yeah, it's been absolutely awesome, and I agree with you. And when you've done it right as well, because some people would go for the Lambo and carry on the job and doing the videos, and no, you've done it right. Quit the day job, focus on I mean, I think it's your destiny to do this, buddy. You it's great authenticity, which is very, very rare, and you come across as really genuine and original. And you're not just recycling the crap that a lot of people do. By the way, Nathan, thanks for the sub. I saw Nathan had subbed to my channel just a second ago. So good lad.
No, it's cool, man. Yeah, I've been refreshing a couple of times, and I think we're still like 4 subscribers away. So for you out of 137, need to go give Crypto 7 a sub. But I mean, you're definitely right. It's one of those things that, I don't know. I mean, some people like that flashy thing and the Lambo and stuff, and great, that's their prerogative. But I don't know. Even if I were to hex flex, probably wouldn't be a Lambo. Stuff like that just seems.
Yeah, I don't think
part of me is too damn stingy, dude. Like, when I see even the assets where they're at and the wealth where it's at, that's great. But say if you do put in, I don't know, 100,000, couple 100,000 for such a thing. Well, now it's like, well, that's money I could have had in Pulse Chain or in Hex that I don't have now. And then also you've got because my dad used to have like a Mercedes SL 500, and those foreign cars, they're damn expensive. You got the maintenance and all this other stuff. So for me, I'm kind of just, cheaply being frugal.
Maybe a Jeep, maybe a 4-wheel drive would be good for you, and also better on the insurance because you're 25, aren't you? Happy birthday.
Yeah, yep.
Related.
Hey, thanks, man.
But 25 insurance is going to be bad. Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't actually get a Lambo. I mean, it's just a little bit. No, I mean, I love it, but it's just a bit too much, isn't it? Or maybe I'd get a Lambo, but it would be if I had enough money for about 6 cars, and the Lambo would be the one that I would just take out very occasionally to the right settings. You couldn't take it down the shops to get your groceries, could you?
Yeah, no, and big update. So yeah, now you're over 1,000, which is cool. Looks like the 4 people had listened, so
Thanks, everyone.
Thank,
The other
thanks
thing,
everyone for listening to that. That's awesome.
that's fantastic. And the other thing, BallietBran, is you've got the ability. You may not have spent much money, but that money is there. You have the ability to do. Just that knowledge sets you free, doesn't it? Sets you free.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, you look at someone like Richard, who's, you know, arguably a multi-billionaire. And anyways, dude, I just think about sometimes like the bigger picture, because obviously it's cool to have your finances covered and set and stuff like that. But once again, what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit on your thumb all day and like not give back and not provide value? Or are you going to be able to, you know, maybe spend some of that time differently to help others have the same opportunity? Because it really is one of those things that like the rising tide does lift all of the ships. And I see Richard doing that, and he didn't have to, right? He could have just stayed under anonymous accounts and kind of just been like a lurker, as opposed to doing all of this other work. And I'm not saying that that's for everyone, but it's something to consider, because we could make a lot more progress if more people did.
Yeah, buddy. To summarize some of my, not trying to finish off the stream, but just to summarize some of
Yeah, for sure.
Is I'm saying that the hex price is just going to go up and up and up. But if you've been in hex a while, my advice would be do diversify to some other things as well if you're not in them already, because it is just that jewel in a bigger crown. And I think that's a good thing to do. And as I say, I think hex is a fantastic hedge because it seems to go up more when other things aren't doing so well. I think that the crypto market is going to go up for about another 12 months, the wider crypto market, which is fantastic, because if I'm right, as it starts to tail off, I think people are going to look at things that were performing better earlier at that stage, particularly if Hex hasn't done much over the next 12 months. I think it's just going to go absolutely insane. So whatever you do, don't sell. If you can find some fiat to buy some other cryptocurrencies as well, better still. But then it's quite good fun, because then you've got something going up all the time. But I don't suppose you get many people on your channel that say diversify to other cryptocurrencies. But I do think that you know, we need to be a little bit more. You know, Hex is fantastic, Pulse is fantastic. There's different cryptocurrencies which do different things. So I do think there's a need to look to vary and have different. I've got about 30 cryptocurrencies, and you know, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned because yeah, I'm 25, have never had any property, but yeah, I'm definitely in the future. I don't know when, right? But because obviously you'd have to realize some of it. But yeah, you know, would love to get some properties in the future and just have kind of a majority of my wealth where it already is. But then, as you mentioned, you can have other things that are, say, I guess less volatile, which is obviously less price gains, but might be more tangible instead of completely digital, or just other things as you kind of talk about that I do agree with. I mean, obviously everyone's asset allocation is different from one to the next, and kind of where they want to go. But I do think that it's not a bad idea to consider that stuff. I mean, it's always nice to have a little bit of a hedge type of deal.
Definitely, buddy. And maybe I'm being a bit old manish, just sort of giving my advice, my experience, you know, there. But, you know, one thing we haven't talked about, I'm really looking forward to, you know, this is going to sound silly now, but in a way, I'm really looking forward to the bear market, because we talked about the psychology of markets and things. And I must admit, because that's the thing I focus on, I found it quite easy, relatively easy, to spot the bottom of the bear market in 2018, early 2019. And you mentioned about the crypto YouTube, the videos. You can really see the sentiment played out in the comments there as well. And when people start chucking their toys and going home and all the rest, and then it's really, you know, people really start to get frustrated. And the beginning of the bull market, you will recall, you mentioned you've been in 6 or 7 years, so you will have seen this. At the beginning of the bull market, the prices were sort of going up almost monotonically, just nice and gently, and it was the clever money just quietly, secretly accumulating. They knew it was a bottom. You know, when Ethereum got down to $80 and Bitcoin got down to 3K, they knew it was the bottom, and they were just quietly buying. And it was a lovely time, really, particularly if you loaded the boat when Ethereum was $80, etc. You know, and in a sense, I'm looking forward to that time, because things are really volatile now because we're going to get more and more retailing, and you get these things like the Shiba Inu pumps and dumps and people jumping. You mentioned the shiny thing in the room, brilliant analogy, and a lot of people are jumping onto the shiny things in the room, and and cryptos do take turns as well, and I think that. I think that Hex is just in the position that ADA is in at the moment, which is just it's done so well, and people are just thinking, well, no, this is fantastic, but now let's see, let's put some money towards other things as well, and then we'll go back to Hex at the right time. I think that's just what's going to happen. It's definitely don't give up on Hex. I mean, I'm excited.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Down. I'm down about. I'm down about 50. I was buying Hex at 40 something cents, so I'm down. But I'm not down anything because you only realize losses when you sell, don't you? So.
Well, it's true, and you've definitely got a point about maximizing the opportunities when something is on sale, and not to mention the duplicate that people are going to get for Pulse Chain. Unfortunately, with the actual Ethereum gas fees, like they've just gotten so ridiculous that even the people that did want to, I don't know, maybe scoop up a few $100s or whatever the amount is, they wouldn't be able to because damn near at least half or 66% of their principal would now go to the fees and the Ethereum miners. So I think what people are doing with some people, they're waiting to do maybe staking ladders until Pulse Chain, because instead of say $20 or $30 to start a stake, now it's going to be pennies. But that can at least help some people as a hedge, as you mentioned, whether it's liquid or whether some of it's staked or both. It kind of helps you against the downturn to know that, hey, the price might be down, but unless you're selling, it doesn't really matter. And if you can also like reverse that incentivization by earning interest, earning yield, then I think that's pretty cool.
There's a really interesting saying in crypto, which you've probably heard, but to some of your viewers may not, which is that, let's get this right now, because it's late here in the UK.
Yeah. We'll finish.
People in the short term in crypto, people in the short term wildly overestimate what crypto prices can do. But medium to long term, they wildly underestimate what it can do. And that's the thing. We're invested here. We're not, so we shouldn't be expecting to get rich in a week or a month. I've seen people get rich in a year in crypto. I'm not totally. Sadly, but I have seen people do it. You can do it with a fair wind, a bit of luck. You can get rich in a year in crypto. But normally, give it 4 or 5 years, which is a cycle. So wherever you landed on that cycle, unless you're incredibly unlucky, unless you went all in on Litecoin or something, you're going to do. I did buy a lot of Litecoin.
Yeah, me too.
I like
back in the day.
Right, I thought, well, it's a top 5 crypto. They call it the little brother of Bitcoin. Blue chip crypto. It was fast payment and all that. Had a nice name. They had PR. I thought, well, it's gone down to $22. I'm going to load the boat. So in the market, I loaded the boat on Litecoin. I thought it was 400 at the top of the cycle. Went down.
I remember. Yeah. This
is an absolute steal. So I thought it's still languishing at about $180 or something stupid. I only completely exited my Litecoin about a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Well.
Only I'd put that in Hex or
I mean, it's interesting too, and we'll probably finish off here and then resume in another time. But the last thing that I'll say is it really is interesting, the like the narrative and the hype and like what people are saying it is versus what something actually is, because you've got the narrative of people that don't like Hex and what they think it is, and then you've got the actual you've got like the perception and then the reality. And so that was kind of my thing with Litecoin too, where it was almost like a Stockholm syndrome, dude, because I was buying it $27, $22, stuff like that. But then when Charlie did sell the top and had dumped a whole bunch, it's like I had almost like justified, maybe conflict of interest or this kind of reason. And then, Richard was kind of the one that really painted the reality that was like, I don't know, I guess just sobering to hear, because it snapped me out of the dream state and was like, okay, why am I actually in this? Is it for the gains? And if the founder did just sell, then might not be the most bullish momentum there. That like was the actual top. So it's all relative.
I should have listened to Richard.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, a lot of people didn't with Hex and are with Pulse, you know. So I guess, yeah, without too much more, I guess we can just finish up. It's like an hour and 33 minutes. Do you want to tell people once again where they can find you? I know we've got your channel here, which is over 1,000. That's amazing.
You've done a great job. You've done a great job of plugging my channel. And as I say, I'm only in it for the engagement. If people would like to hook me up with a sub and hit the notification bell, great.
Yeah, and give Crypto7 a follow here on Twitter as well. Definitely give him a follow and share out his videos too, right? With everyone else. So yeah, dude, I think that'll probably be it. I mean, do you have any last words to say?
Just thanks ever so much for bringing me on your channel. And as I say, I'm a massive fan, and I watch all your videos, and I think you're doing a brilliant job for the community.
Well, cool, man. No, I appreciate, you accommodating the time, and obviously all the compliments too. It's nice to know that the work, like when I first started, it was like a couple of people that would watch, and then from Hexologist, it was like, okay, now develop a schedule and be consistent. And anyways, it's cool to see the lives that you can impact, because that's really all this is for, is to hopefully educate others and help other people. So
one of those guys who, I know you haven't got a huge subscriber count, but everyone knows you in the community. You come up a lot. It's great.
Yeah,
you're memorable, and it's back to that authenticity. You're unique. You're great.
Well, thank you, man. And the last thing I'll say is like, it's something that obviously I take pride in being consistent, but yeah, there's like that saying where it's like, you can, as far as a reputation, it takes years or decades to build a reputation, but it literally can take seconds or minutes to destroy it. And that's the last thing I want to do here. Obviously you want to stay consistent with what the core message is, and be authentic. So I'm happy that it's coming across. So, well, cool, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. You too, guys. See you next time.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams.